I'm Zoltán from Budapest, and I'm the CDO of Webtown in the Hungarian office. In this presentation, I will try to give you as much value as I can regarding how can you make your life-ray projects more efficient, and how can you get business value within 2 weeks in a project. I think if you are working for an enterprise, you probably saw different projects, and probably most of them didn't have the capability to deliver something useful within 2 weeks. This presentation will hopefully bring you value if you work for procurement, if you're a business decision maker, you're an architect, or you're any kind of stakeholder within your organization, because I think this is what you need to understand if you want to work within a life-ray project and you want the project to be efficient. I think it's important to understand that processes can be divided into 2 groups, and by 2 examples I want to show you how these groups of processes are working. The first one is the bake of an apple pie, which probably you all know how to do it, and probably you have a receipt from your grandmother or someone within the family, your mother, and that's the best one. And you know that you know what is the input that is needed for this process. You know how to do it because the recipe is there. You know all the times, you know all the tools that you need for that process, and you will get the outcome, what you expect. It's always that apple pie that you are searching for. These are called defined processes, where uncertainty is not on the table. You know that the input, what are your inputs, you know how you will work with them, and then you get the same result. I assume that all of you have had the chance to visit an unknown hotel shower where you find a tap, and you always have to do small refinements to find the exact amount and temperature that you needed to have your shower. I think this is the best example how empirical processes works. You need the time to refine, to find the best solution. You cannot learn the exact angle and the exact force of the tap that you need to set. Every hotel shower tap is different, and so you need time to understand how that one works. Empirical processes are important when uncertainty and unknown comes in picture, and I think we all know that software development is like that. Very important part of the empirical processes is that while you are working with that tap, what you do is you get feedback after every movement, and then you adjust, and then you get another feedback, how is the temperature of the water and things like that. So you work with feedback loops. You cannot recognize it because it's so natural to do this, but these are small feedback loops within the process. When the primary resource in your project is human resource, you have to understand that people are variables within your process with different needs, with different habits. They are in different mood in every day. Sometimes they need coffee, they need vision, they need different things in different days within the week to produce the results that you need from them. By this, your primary resources are non-linear, let's say that, which means that you cannot count on them as something that is predictable, but you have to count on them that you will need feedbacks and you will need to adjust constantly to have them the results for you. As we are working in IT, I would say that different DNA means different configuration. So by that, you will get different results based on what happens with that person. Very important. Third thing that we have to understand is that within the project, the goal is constantly moving because your business environment is moving, is changing. And they won't wait for you to finish the project. The business environment will change. And if you think that your goal is there when you start the project, the red line will be the plan-driven approach, and the green line will be the line with the feedback loops, with the adjustments. So probably at one point you will see that your goal is moving, but the red line is going where the plan says it needs to go. And as you approach your goal, you will see that what happened. With the green line, you manage to make a shorter way. With the red line, you have some additional costs by reaching the original goal and then moving to the new one. So that's very important. If you have the chance to readjust your plan, you will have the opportunity to go on a shorter way to your goal. So, two most important things about Agile is the planning and how you work with processes and people within your processes. Agile is not about stand-up, it's not about user stories, it's not about story points, it's about these two factors. Predictive planning, which is the original approach, assumes that the plan is stable because the requirements behind that are stable. If you build a bridge, that's probably something that you can assume. But within software development and in business environment, requirements are changing. So you cannot have a single one plan because you have to adjust. Predictive planning means that your success is when you have the project according to the plan. And at one point, you will, if you want to stick your original plan, you will find that your business environment is your enemy, because your business environment is changing, but you cannot change because you want to stick to your original plan. So you will have a very, very great conflict within you. Adaptive planning means that you accept that things are changing around you, so you want to have a solution for that, how to handle it easily. And it's very important that Agile doesn't mean that you have no plan. It's very important that you still have a plan, but it's adaptive. It means that it's not as deep, and I will tell you a few things about that, how it differs from the predictive planning. Plan-driven projects are process-based. You want everyone to follow the process that was set up at the start of the project. And the Agile way accepts that people are different, they have different moods, and there is a good chance that if some of your colleagues will have a divorce within the project, or having a new family member, a new child, his attitude will change, his mood will change, and probably he will need a different environment to be that effective. There's a good chance that he will need different working hours, or wants more home office or anything like that, but you have to give him the opportunity to reach the same efficiency that he had before. And this means that you approach people first and not process first approach. So how you can have an environment for a project like this? I highlighted three aspects. where you can minimize dependencies. Dependencies are things that will slow down your team, slow down your project, because it's like having rocks within your pockets. It's harder to move, harder to change, to adapt. On the organization level, and I assume that your colleagues are motivated within a project, you have to leave the team to decide how they work. It's very important. You have to set requirements against their output and not their process. So probably it's a good example to ask them to produce releases in every week, which is an output, and not set requirements how to produce a release. You just want them to produce a release. The release is something that you set before starting the work, and then you ask them to do it, whatever you want to do it for reaching the goal. And very important that you need cross-functional teams, so the team can do the whole thing on his own and doesn't need any outer resources, other colleagues. It's very hard within enterprise projects that the testing the UAT is probably outside of the development team, and it's hard to have the same efficiency as it would be inside the team, but I will talk about that later. The agreement part, very important, and that's why I mentioned the decision makers and colleagues from the procurement will hopefully get something valuable from this presentation. If you want your project to have the space to reach the business goal and to choose his own path, you will need an agreement that supports it. Agreements are documentation that's hard to update within the project. It's probably signed at the first of the project, and it will stay the same for the whole thing. And if you set dependencies within that agreement, your team don't have enough space to move within that, and probably your business side will be the first one who will feel that. And the infrastructure is very important. If you want to be fast, you need a lot of automation. You need to give access to the developers. You need to trust them, and you need to have an infrastructure that is capable of fast releasing and fast automated testing. I will talk about that later. I'm trying to be as practical as I can, so hopefully you will have a great understand how we work in our daily basis, and hopefully if we can work together, or you have a liferay vendor, and hopefully you can benefit from this information, and you can make your project more efficient. So this is how we work. We have between these two lines, this is where the development team works in 1 week long sprints. This means that the business can see the results of the development every week. For us, it's very important to work within 1 week long sprints, because we see that for the product owners, for the business stakeholders, it's easier to decide how to handle the project if they see the progress continuously. This is how we work for all our clients in Hungary. This is how we managed to create the website for KBC Group and other Hungarian banks and financial institutes. They had the chance to work on the tasks, on the backlog items week by week, because they saw how we produced their life report. Before starting to work, you need to have few things for the team. Very important to give them the clear vision. What is your goal with your project, and how do we know that we reached that goal? I think that's a question that sometimes they forget to ask themselves. But if you know that the objectives, if you know how to measure that you reached your goal, then probably your project will deliver more value than without it. We always do forecast, so the customer, the product owner knows what we think about the size of the project. It's easier to imagine what forecast means if I say you that for every 2 months of the project we need at around 1 hour of forecast. So within 2 hours, the development team can estimate a 4-month long project, and so on, like that. We need to establish a few things. This sprint ready means that we set the standard for the documentation what the development team will get. So we, for example, set requirements for the documentation for these backlog items, like it has to be according to the local laws and rules and the legal environment. It has to contain design layout files or whatever the project needs, and of course some key objectives that can be reached by the development. And there's another thing that we have to set is what we expect from the development team to fulfill. These are the definition of done requirements. I will talk about it later, that what can be these requirements. And of course the short feedback loops with the daily stand-ups. It's very important that these are not status meetings. They are about the circumstances of the backlog items and if the sprint is runnable or not. Is it okay or not? A few things about this definition of done, which we want to fulfill in every week. We want to know that these requirements are met with all the backlog items, the shippable software. So probably we will have look and feel requirements for the whole website, the whole portal, everything that is created within the project. We want to have the same look and feel with the style guide, with some company stuff, of course. Probably we will have performance requirements. We want the team to test performance in every week, so we don't have to have long weeks of optimizing at the end of the project. We want that everything that comes out from the development is meeting the performance requirement. Accessibility is the same. Documentation, we want the team to update all the documentations in every week. So whenever we want to release a new feature, the documentation is there, and for the operations and for the CMS administrators, everything is written down so they can use the new feature. They don't have to wait for documentation. And of course the security requirements are very important. We want to test it week by week so we know that we meet those requirements as well, like code quality management. So going back to this process that we have, it's very important that the release cycle time is between this line and this part. Most of the enterprise companies are putting everything for the UAT environment and then waiting there for a month or a year and a half, and then they go live with the whole thing. If you want to have the best feedbacks on your website, then probably you will get it from the users, the visitors of this website. Which means if you have everything here but nothing here, you won't get any feedback, you won't get any information from the users who are using your site. Of course, there are a lot of tools like Google Analytics and heat map tools and things like that, how you can decide whether your solution is working or not. Do you reach the business goals with your website, with that landing page, whatever solution you have, but you need to have it here. It's very important. If you want to, regarding testing, a few words. If you want to have new functions that you can put here, you have to have all the testing tasks within the sprint, or very short after the sprint, within a few days. Because you don't have more time if you want to have something within 2 weeks. That's all you have. This means that you will need a lot of automation. The good news is that Liferay supports this. Liferay supports unit testing. You can use Gmeter for performance testing. You can use any kind of tool, of course, for penetration testing, for security issues. You can use Selenium, cross-border tester tools. The important part is that you have to organize the project to have it here within the sprint. If you have it after, you will suffer a lot of cost because of that, and I will show you the example for that. Automation is also important not only for testing, but for creating this release and to having it here in the production environment or the UAT environment. If it goes faster, you will save a few hours within the 2 weeks also, which can be important if you want to meet short deadlines. The cost of a bug, I don't know if you're familiar with that. This is the cost, and this is the feedback cycle length, which means that the time when you realize that you have that bug. The cheapest one is if you find it with pair programming, 2 developers sitting in front of one computer, and one of them recognizes, you misspelled it. It's not okay like that, or you have to correct it. Classic UAT is here. So you can imagine, and there are different ways of parallel testing and automated testing and things like that. I won't go that deeply. Won't go in deeply. But you have to understand that the price that you have to pay for that bug is a whole lot more if you have it there. So you have to make, as a decision maker, everything to put the testing within the development process. It's very important. How Liferay can help you to have an environment, have a project which is that fast. Liferay can give you tools, and Liferay can give you the opportunity to use these tools. And at that point, you will need someone who knows how to use these tools or know how to use Liferay within an environment like that. Very important part, I won't go deeply in it, but we will have a technical track later today with Zsolt, our architect from Webtown. He's here, and he will talk about monolith and microservices. If you want to know more about that, Liferay DXP supports OSGI, which means that you can use the microservices approach. Microservices versus monolith means that it's cheaper to modify, it's more attractive to develop, very important I think in these days. You can have reusability more in your solution than in monolith solutions, because these are smaller components and you can easily use them. And of course the scalability of your whole solution is different, because in monolith solution you can have only one-dimensional scalability. If you have microservices, then you can separate CPU-bound, memory-bound components and things like that. Zsolt will go in deeper if you have any questions regarding OSGI and how Liferay creates that environment. Liferay can also help you with its compatibility. It's very important to find the software environment that you are familiar with, you know, you test it, you have experts, so you can find the best software infrastructure for your team, which is supported by Liferay. And just one thing about Liferay support I want to mention. Raiffeisen Hungary had more than 100 tickets within a few years, because when they asked for help, they got it. And it's very important, I think, that you have a product that has real support, and you will have real answers within hours and real solution patches within days, because probably you want to have your Liferay environment stable and up and running. So this is a very important part that you can use with a lot of different software environments. And I won't go deep within, but if you want to have business value within 2 weeks. You need automation, a lot of automation, because these are faster than manual tasks. So probably you will use Gmeter or something like that for continuous performance testing. Probably if you need that, you can do it in every night. So in the morning, your development team will see if they have to optimize something or they still meet the requirements. Probably you will need Docker, Kubernetes, something that helps the development team to have environments pretty fast, to copy them, to have separate versions of the software parallel. Maybe you will use Selenium or something like that to have functional testing automated, like the user would click on the website, you can automate that by script and it will click all the functions that you need day by day if you want that. Probably you will need Jenkins or something like that or TeamCity for continuous deployment. So from the versioning system to the UAT, probably you will have an automation and you don't need anyone to have the new package installed or something like that. The release will go out automatically. At least that's how we try to work in every project. Cross-browser testing, very important. In the last few years, there are tools can be found which are pretty good, and you can use them to have automated testing and to have a comparison between Firefox and Edge screenshots automatically, so your development team will get a list of the defects between different web browsers. I really like these tools because they have a lot of features for mobile and for desktop testing, which is very important, and you don't need to have a lot of tablets and mobile phones around your development team to have the testing and to find those bugs. And of course, unit testing is something that's pretty common. It's within Liferay, so your team can use it as well. What I told you is that how we work day by day, and we work for big companies in Hungary like this, and it works. You can have these kind of projects within enterprise environment, and your business teams can benefit from these kind of projects if the procurement, the decision makers, the solution architects, and all the people who are involved in your projects are committed to have these short cycles and see the value that comes from these projects. I just want to add one more thing before I go to Q&A. If you have any questions, if you go to a project like this, probably after 6 or 8 months, you will feel that the end of the project is totally based on a different set of information than you thought it previously, because you will have a different approach with the deadline as well, because you will understand that week by week you will have something more on your portal, like let's say the onion model, which you will have additional layers week by week, and so your business side can decide when to go live, and you can still go through these 1 week long life cycles and have new features, although you have a live release, so you can get feedbacks from your visitors. And this way, these projects are ending differently. Probably the end of the project will be because of the budget, because if you learn how to go week by week and always find the next most important thing that you want to develop by the team, then you will have the opportunity to make a decision that is that enough to go live, or I want to wait 1 more week. And everyone within the company who can get access to the UAT environment or wherever you want to show them the results that you have on that day, everyone will have this feeling that if we wait 5 more days, we get more, and we can decide if we want to do it or not. And it's very important that if you have all the things that I mentioned, the documentation, the requirements of the performance testing within the sprint, then you will be able to make that decision if you will have the chance on every week to make that decision, so you can have your projects longer or shorter, or go live earlier and then get feedbacks from the website and adjust things. You don't have to allocate budget at the start of the project. You don't have to allocate time for the refinement part, because that's what most waterfall projects have, that okay, we will have the project until January, but we want a phase after that to correct things that we understand that are needed. But with an agile project, you will have this opportunity week by week to make a decision. Our clients often use different approaches for testing on UAT. Sometimes they ask people on the street to come in and do a paid testing, so they can give review. Everyday people on the street can give review if the new function of that bank is good enough or not, if they understand how it works or not, if they need some new functions to be faster with their mobile banking or online insurance issues or not. And so you don't need to wait a month to get that stable version. You will always have a stable version within your life frame. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.